Okay, let's dive right into this. Welcome to today's Explainer, where we are tackling one of the absolute most chaotic, high-stakes environments in the entire world, the airport.
I'm Mile 1.
And I'm Jack.
Now, if you've ever stood in a terminal just completely frozen because you couldn't understand a single word of the fast-paced English echoing over those terrible speakers, you know what? You are definitely not alone. Today, we're giving you a highly practical toolkit to just eliminate that travel anxiety completely.
I mean, just picture this. You've just landed after a brutal 12-hour flight. You are exhausted. The background noise is insanely loud, people are rushing everywhere, and suddenly you're hit with these fast-paced, totally unfamiliar accents.
Right, and then you're standing in this massive line, watching a very serious-looking immigration officer wave people forward. And you can feel your heart start racing, right? Because you have no idea what they're going to ask you, and that paralyzing fear of making a mistake just totally sets in.
But here is the secret to getting through it. We call it survival English. It's an elegantly simple concept that basically means you absolutely do not need textbook fluency to navigate an airport.
Exactly. Because survival English, it's way less about knowing complex grammar rules, and it's so much more about just having the right, short language tools ready for very specific moments. It's about knowing exactly what to say and having the confidence to just ask for clarification when you need it.
So, here's exactly what we're going to conquer together today. First, we'll look at the survival English mindset. Second, check-in and security. Third, flight announcements.
Jack. Fourth, navigating delays. Fifth, the immigration interview. And finally, we'll give you the ultimate backup phrase.
All right, let's get into section 1, the survival English mindset. You know, airport English feels impossible mostly because it's incredibly fast, super formal, and it's spoken under extreme time pressure, with like 50 people waiting directly behind you. But think about the actual journey. Check-in, security, boarding, immigration, and finally, baggage claim.
Exactly. And because these interactions always happen in that fixed order, the staff at each stage are essentially just reading from a mental checklist. You aren't there to make small talk with them, you just need to know the scripts for each predictable stage.
Which brings us to section 2, check-in and security checkpoints. Okay, so at the check-in counter, agents have very specific questions to get you and your bags onto the plane. Imagine the agent says, place your bag on the scale. Oh, you're 3 kilos over. Most airlines have a really strict 23-kilogram weight limit, and if you're over that, you could be hit with a massive fee, sometimes anywhere from $75 to $200.
Ouch.
Yeah, nobody wants that. But instead of freezing up or just sadly pulling out your credit card, use this crucial phrase. Could I move some things to my carry-on? The agent will almost always say yes, and boom, you just saved yourself $100. Next up is security. It is fast and it is direct. You're going to hear things like, laptops in a separate bin, liquids out please, empty your pockets, step through the scanner, arms above your head.
Whoa, okay, Jack. Honestly, you're stressing me out just saying it that fast.
Well, that's the environment, right? It's intense. But the real trick here is to just ignore all the extra noise and only listen for the action verbs. Empty, step, arms above. Oh, and a quick reminder, never ever joke about anything dangerous here. They are literally trained to take everything you say completely seriously. Right, okay, section 3, decoding confusing flight announcements. So you've survived security and now you're at the boarding gate. Suddenly that garbled, echoing intercom audio turns a totally simple update into a high-stakes listening test. Over the loudspeaker, a fast, jargon-heavy announcement might sound something like, "Ladies and gentlemen, Flight 1017 has been delayed due to a technical issue. Please proceed to the gate and await boarding." Right, but you really don't need to understand every single word. All that actually means is, your flight will leave later, go to the gate and wait. The strategy? Just ignore the fluff. Only listen for your specific flight number and action words like delayed, gate change, or boarding. But listen, if there is one action word you must never ignore, it's this one. If you hear an announcement saying, "This is the final boarding call. Final checks are being completed. Doors will close in 5 minutes. This implies extreme urgency.
Yes, absolutely. The clear meaning here is you have just a few minutes left, go now. If you hear the phrase final boarding call followed by your name, do not walk. You literally must sprint to the gate immediately, or you are for sure going to miss that flight.
Let's move to Section 4, navigating delays like a pro. Okay, but what happens when the plane just isn't leaving? Navigating a delay is incredibly stressful, and so many people actually miss out on compensation because they just sit quietly and don't know what to ask for. So here is exactly what you are entitled to ask for. If your flight is delayed for 3 or more hours and it's the airline's fault, politely ask, will the airline be providing meal vouchers? If it's an overnight delay, ask, will the airline be providing hotel accommodation?
Right, and if you missed a connection because your first flight was late, you need to ask for ticket rebooking. You have to proactively ask for these items at the airline counter. Airlines definitely don't always offer them up front, but if you know your rights, you're not going to be the one sleeping on an uncomfortable airport floor.
Now, if you just want to get on a totally different flight to avoid a massive delay altogether, use this polite, specific question. Are there any earlier flights available?
Notice how it's an open question rather than a demanding statement like, give me another flight. Gate agents possess enormous discretion. They can literally bend the rules to help you, but they have zero patience for hostile or yelling passengers. Being polite is absolutely your superpower here.
Next up, Section 5, passing the immigration interview. All right, so you've landed, but now you face the real climax of the journey. You're jet lagged, you're exhausted, and the officer looks incredibly serious. But remember, this is really just a highly predictable checklist. The officer is simply trying to understand your story. They ask these same predictable core questions to almost everyone. Where are you coming from? What is the purpose of your visit? How long will you stay? And you do not need long, complex sentences to answer these. Really, keep it to short, direct answers. From Brazil, tourism, 2 weeks. Memorize your answers to these 4 questions, and you will get through this interview in under 90 seconds. And that actually brings us to the golden rule of immigration. Stick to one story and don't improvise. Just be honest, be consistent, and keep it concise.
Absolutely. Oh, and when they ask for that return ticket, always have it printed out. Seriously, phones die, apps glitch, and airport Wi-Fi disappears exactly when you need it most. Handing over a physical printed document immediately removes so much stress from the situation.
Which brings us to our final part, Section 6, the ultimate backup phrase. So we need to talk about a highly dangerous trap. The officer asks a fast question, you don't actually understand what they said, but because you're nervous, you just kind of nod and say yes. Nodding yes when asked if you have a liquid over 100 milliliters gets your bag pulled apart in front of everyone. Nodding yes at customs when asked about food can lead to massive fines. Yes! Never pretend to understand. Instead, use the single most important phrase of this entire explainer. I'm sorry. Could you say that more slowly, please? It is the ultimate backup phrase. If your brain just goes blank, use it. Airport staff and immigration officers hear this daily from literally millions of non-native speakers. They aren't going to judge you. They will simply repeat themselves slower and clearer. Asking for clarification is always cheaper and safer than just guessing. By embracing this survival English mindset, you really can turn airport panic into complete confidence. You don't need perfect grammar, you just need your printed documents, a few short responses, and the courage to politely ask an agent to speak slowly.
Exactly. You know the stages, you know the mental checklists, and now you have the scripts to advocate for yourself if things happen to go wrong.
So, as we wrap up today's explainer, I want to leave you with a bit of a challenge. Next time you face a fast-talking airport officer, are you going to freeze or will you use your survival English? You've got the tools now. Use these exact phrases on your next international trip, speak up with confidence, and travel without fear. Thanks so much for joining us to Decode Airport English. Safe travels, everyone.